Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
Are we ready to roll? Marvellous. So, Tony, my wonderful friend, thank you so much for coming up here and taking time out of your busy clinic to come and be a guest, one of the early starters on the podcast. Being as you'll be a co-host, it's really, really important that I feel it's important that people get to know your story as much as mine. So I just wanted you to make sure that you were really comfortable and happy. You got your cup of tea, your glass of water, and just feeling right. So I haven't got any particular questions in mind, apart from the obvious one about you now own your own holistic health clinic, Total Body Health, down in Wimbledon Village. And obviously, I'm certain everybody would love to know what led you to that decision, because it was just a few years ago, wasn't it? So most times when something significant changes like that in your life, there's a reason.
There absolutely is. And I found that so many people in the holistic health space have come into it because they've had a condition, they've gone to hospital, they've gone to the doctors, they've been on pills for ages and nothing has fixed it. And then they find a way out. They find something that helps them and then they want to share it with everybody else.
Yeah. So was it like that for you as well then?
Absolutely was like that, yes.
Okay. Tell me more.
My health story started probably when I was 15 and I was put on antidepressants. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly why. Maybe I was a bit difficult at that age. Maybe I asked too many questions. And they thought, this will shut him up. As far as I can recall, because it was a long time ago, I was just a bit of an awkward teenager, you know, who sort of went through the usual, not doing that, not interested in that anymore. And I think that's probably what led things down that route. And then I got sent to the doctor and he put me on antidepressants and I was on them for the next 45 years.
45 years? Oh my goodness. Wow. And they didn't really even give you a proper reason at the beginning as to why you were put on them?
Well, I was 15. Now, the thing is that at 15, your brain is not fully developed.
True.
Which might explain a lot of things in my case. And I was put on a whole series of different antidepressants. I counted the other day because I actually have the list of them.
Okay.
And it's over 20 different types over the 45 years.
Oh my goodness.
As new ones came out, they thought, well, this didn't work, so let's try him on this one. And it felt a bit like being a lab rat. It was just one after another.
That's awful. I mean, was there any point in time where they went, actually, let's just have a look at this. Let's do some tests, some talking and find out why he's still on these wretched things?
I think that's the thing. In those days, going back all that time, people didn't tend to think about talking therapies or about trying to look at what's the root cause of this.
Yeah, I guess.
There were so many different theories then, as there are now still, you know. People talked about the chemical imbalance in the brain, and it's been proven that that's maybe not the case, that also the environment has a contributory factor, as does your physical state, as does your psychological state. So there are three different prongs to this. But in those days, they just looked at one and thought, okay, here's a drug that will fix the supposed chemical imbalance. Here we go, away with that.
And that was it, draw a line under it.
Yeah. So then it was never a case of, well, let's work out why this started, or let's work out what you've been through in your life, which has led you to this point, which has made you like this. It was all just, here's another pill for that ill.
God, that's rubbish, isn't it? So what happened at the point of 45 years later that made you go, actually, I'm not doing this anymore?
It was a mixture of things and a couple of people.
Okay, tell me more.
At the time, we'd moved up to Halifax to invest in property. Now, a few years previous to that, while still taking all the antidepressants, my back went. Some of this may have occurred because I used to do some running when I was a youngster in things called plimsolls.
Oh,
which,
yes.
Those of a certain age might recall. These things didn't have any padding like the nice trainers have today. They were just flat. And if you run on hard surfaces in that, then at some stage your back is probably going to complain. And mine did later in life.
For sure.
And as a result of that, I ended up with a slip disc, sciatica, and arthritis. And
Ouch.
having explained how much pain I was in, I was put on 2 very powerful painkillers called gabapentin and tramadol.
Okay. That's a heavy combo.
Heavy combination. And when that didn't work, that was accompanied by injections in the back.
Steroids.
Yes. And when that didn't work, they said, well, all we can do now is slice your back open and fuse your vertebrae. Now, I'm squeamish at the best of times.
I can guess your reply then.
So come near me with a knife and I'm running the other direction. So I looked into what the risks were involved in that, which were possible paralysis, impotence, incontinence, or all 3.
That's an intoxicating list, isn't it? Come and get me. No. So
I said, it really doesn't hurt that much. I'll cope.
yeah, I can understand that. So you were on the painkillers for a while?
I was, probably about 6 years.
Oh my God.
Mixed with the antidepressants. And then I ended up one day on the floor screaming, unable to wee.
Ah.
And I was whipped down to A&E, and they did this horrible procedure, which enabled me to wee.
Okay. Thank goodness for that, I think.
And they said, looks like you might have a prostate issue here.
Right.
We'd like to line you up for some biopsies. And in the meantime, here's some more pills.
Oh.
So
You were rattling at this point then?
I was indeed. By this time, I'm on 24 pills a day. A little pill box, had to separate them all out. Breakfast, lunch, nighttime.
Oh, God.
And I just thought, what has my life come to? Taking a bunch of pills like this every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And not knowing whether they're interacting with each other, which they probably were when you're taking that many. There can't be no interactions between any of them, can there? I mean, the basic things we consume interact, don't they? So, I mean, so what next then?
Well, I asked exactly what you just said. I said, what happens when you mix antidepressants and painkillers and prostate pills together? They said, we don't know.
Oh, great.
Now, around that time, we had a property coach, massive, great big Australian guy. And he said, you need to stop taking this stuff. It's going to kill you. And my response was, I've been told I've got to take this for the rest of my life. And he said, that's not going to be a long time if you carry on taking them.
Oh, wow.
He said, I'm going to send you to see a friend of mine who's a kinesiologist. And for people who don't know what that is, it's somebody who does something called muscle testing.
Okay.
And what they do is test whether your body is responding to the truth. So let me try and explain that.
Yeah, please.
In muscle testing, when the kinesiologist raises your hand like this, he asks you what your real name is. And if you say what your real name is and it's right, your arm will hold firm. And if he says, is your name John Smith? No, then the arm will go down like that because the body knows the truth.
Okay.
That's the principle on which it's based. And he said, bring all your pills down. So I took all my pills down, big bag full. And he did testing against each of them. He said, your body doesn't like any of this stuff.
Unsurprisingly, but wow, that's wild.
And I'm advising you to not take them. And here's some vitamins and minerals, which will tide you over while you go through that process. and it won't be pretty, and it won't be comfortable, and it won't be nice. Now, medical warning for all of you at home, do not ever, ever do this. Do not go cold turkey when you've been on pills for a long time. Go and see your doctor. Explain that you might like to reduce or come off them and get their advice first.
Thank you for that. So it really wasn't pretty then?
It was not pretty at all.
Okay.
I spent 2 months shaking and sweating and feeling like death warmed up. Then I rang this chap and I said, I can't hack this. I need to go back on them. And he said, no, actually go and get some colonic irrigation.
Oh, wow.
I won't go into the ins and outs of that.
No, please don't. Just in case anybody's eating.
But I found a practitioner and she went and did whatever they do. And she said, have you ever tried something called bioresonance? Because I explained all my issues and symptoms. And I said, no, never heard of it. What's that? And she gave me a practitioner's card and said, go and see this guy. He'll help sort you out.
Okay. Now it's sounding more like what I know of you from when I met you. What an interesting backstory. Wow. That is an awful lot to go through to get to the point where you are now doing something that is recognisable into what's carried forward. So bioresonance, most people probably haven't got a clue what that is. Can you tell us?
Well, I certainly didn't either. And it's been around for quite some time. And it's based on the principles of quantum physics, which is that everything vibrates, including us and including all our body parts. And they all vibrate at a particular frequency.
Okay.
Now, when we're vibrating at the right frequency, we're okay, we're well. And when it's the wrong frequency, we get ill.
Fair. Okay.
Now, I didn't understand how any of this worked, made an appointment, went to see him. And he asked some questions, then he put some pads on me in the various places where I had issues, stomach, back, and so on. And he plugged these pads into this device, which had contained within it hundreds, possibly thousands of frequencies relating to different bodily conditions.
Okay.
And the first one that we started with was the prostate. Now, he got out this metal grill type of thing, and I had to sit on this.
Okay, that doesn't sound comfortable.
Which was also plugged into this device. And I sat on that for about an hour each session. And at the end of it, I'd go away, come back, do it again. And then I went for the first biopsy. Another rather unpleasant procedure.
Yes.
And they undertook this procedure with me looking at it on a screen in front so I could see what they were doing, and I nearly passed out.
I'm not surprised. Was that intentional? Is that what they normally did?
I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know, but I really didn't enjoy that at all. Then I was called in by the consultant after they had the results of that. He said, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's stabilising.
Okay.
But let's book you in for another biopsy.
You went, yay!
Come back in a few weeks. I was really not looking forward to that, obviously. So I carried on having the bioresonance treatment and then went back for the second biopsy. And this time I said, I do not want to see what you're doing up there. Do not put a screen in front of me. And also, is there any way you could just knock me out completely so I'm unaware of it?
Yes.
Well, they didn't knock me out completely, but I didn't have to look at it on a screen this time.
Okay. Half measures then.
I got called back in by the consultant a while after that, and he said, look, here's the good news. You haven't got cancer, and I'm discharging you back to your GP.
Wow.
And I thought, that's a fantastic result.
Isn't it?
And I thought, is that just a coincidence or what? So then I went back to the bioresonance practitioner and said, now can you fix my sciatica, slip disc and arthritis? And he said, I think so. And he did the same procedure, not sitting on a metal grid this time,
No.
but putting pads on various parts of my body which were plugged into this device. After several sessions, I thought, this doesn't hurt anymore.
Oh my goodness.
I can move. I'd stopped taking the pills, and I lost 2 stone, went back down the gym.
Wow.
Started to feel much better, obviously, with the exercise too. And I said, this is amazing. Why don't people know about this? Yeah. And I said, look, we were going to invest in property. I don't want to do that now. Just get me one of these devices and teach me everything you know.
Perfect.
So that was the start.
Oh, wonderful. So were you still sort of at the tail end of going cold turkey when you were having this bioresonance for the prostate?
I'd sort of come through that by then.
Thank goodness.
And then also he detoxed me at the end of every bioresonance session, which again helped clear stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, thank goodness for that. So the story begins then, doesn't it? So from that point forwards, that sounds like that was your, I'm saying no to traditional medicine in my personal life, and I want to help other people because I know obviously a little bit about you, obviously, and I know that's what drives you to want to help others. So you got your first bioresonance machine?
I did. And at that point I thought, now I want to learn all about this because I never want to go back on those pills again.
Perfect. Good. And were you down in Wimbledon at the time then? Or?
No, at the time I was still in Halifax.
Okay. So what made the decision then to go down to Wimbledon?
Well, you know I'm a bit woo-woo, don't you?
Oh, just a tiny little bit, yeah.
Well, we went on this course, which was to do with connecting with your inner consciousness and your intuition.
Okay.
Very woo-woo. And sat down, and the presenter was doing his stuff, and somebody came and sat next to us and looked across and said, I had a dream about your wife last night. I went,
did you smile?
Okay. Interesting. And she said that she could see auras and things like this. I thought, this is really quite weird. Anyway, she said, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, not quite sure at the moment, going through a bit of a transition, hence coming on this course to try and maybe find out what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And I said that I'd just got this device called a bioresonance device and why I'd got it. And she said, that's really interesting. I own a physiotherapy clinic in Wimbledon, London. I think some of my clients would love what you do. Why don't you give it a try down there? And that's how it came to be in Wimbledon.
I see. Okay. So the story's coming together now. So you made a move.
Sort of half a move, because we were doing sort of probably a day a week or so down there.
Okay.
And then COVID hit.
The big C. One of the two.
And so we could not continue doing that.
Yeah.
And also travelling from Halifax down to London, although we'd rented a place down there and going up and down the motorway. Do you remember the tier system during COVID? You know, sort of like had tiers. I don't know what all that was about. No. But as a result of that, I thought better take both all the papers that we need to say, actually, we're travelling because we're going down to there, we've got an address there as well as up here, because it was a bit weird during those times and you didn't know if you got stopped and you couldn't say why you were crossing from tier 1 to wherever.
Yeah, almost like border control, wasn't it?
It was really bizarre. And then after a while, thought, you know what? I think that this is probably going to work better down in London than it does in Halifax.
Yeah. So the kind of bioresonance service you were offering then, what sort of people were you offering it to originally? The back pain, sort of pain people along with this physio lady? Or?
Yeah. I mean, the first person that came, he was actually somebody that we met also on that same course about intuition.
Why not?
And that was a prostate issue.
So
interestingly.
Something familiar then, which I guess was good right at the beginning.
It was. And what was interesting was he was sort of the first person that we treated as such. And after one of the treatments, he said, excuse me a minute, need to nip to the toilet. Came back and said, that's the best piss I've ever had.
It clearly worked then.
It clearly did something beneficial for him.
Oh, good. Good. And how did that make you feel?
I thought, this is amazing. Because again, this man had been in discomfort for such a long time.
Yeah.
Taking pills and, they were threatening to go inside and do all sorts of internal stuff to him, which, like me, is a bit squeamish and going, not so sure about that.
Fair.
And seemed to have found a way to enable him to wee freely.
Marvellous. That must be so liberating and so fulfilling for you as well. To think, I know what it's like from a personal side of things, and now I've helped somebody else with that. So what happened next?
Well, then I had to do a lot of reading and do a course in this, and kept going back to the bioresonance practitioner virtually on a weekly basis, and he'd teach me everything. And then I ended up with a number of files because you had to look into physiology, anatomy, pathology, and learn about the body in quite a bit of detail, which I then linked with my previous background in psychology.
Wonderful.
So it's like putting all the 4 Ps together.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun.
Absolutely.
All about the P.
So that was a lot of learning then. So this is not a small undertaking, is it?
It wasn't for me. And then I just got more and more interested in, how does all this work?
Yeah.
What is quantum physics? How does that work?
Yes.
And then you go all into Schrodinger's cat. Is it dead or alive at the same time? And if so, why?
Goodness.
And how does that work? Now, with bioresonance, trying to explain it to people is often quite interesting. And you have to try and make it something that they can visualize.
Yeah.
So what I usually say is, you may have seen a video of a glass and an opera singer who sings and holds a particular note and holds that note until the glass shatters.
Yeah.
I say that's similar to how bioresonance works. With a particular frequency, you target whatever the malfunction is with a particular frequency until
it's gone. It corrects.
And if that's right, and if you think about, have you ever tried on some noise-cancelling headphones?
Yes.
It works similar to that. It will, with noise-cancelling headphones, they will emit a frequency the same as what's coming in, the opposite, and it cancels it out. So then you don't hear them. It's similar to that.
Okay.
Or I sometimes say, if you imagine your car is in a car park, big car park, and you are looking everywhere and you can't find your car.
Oh yeah, done that.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And you think, where is it? And then you get your key fob out, you click it, and out of all those cars, the lights will come on one of them, your car. And that's because your fob and the car are attuned to the same frequency.
I like that analogy. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the only one that can relate to that.
Or even if you think about your phone, you make a phone call to a friend, you think of all the billions of phones there are in the world.
Yeah.
You dial a number, but it just hits your friend's number out of all the billions of phones. Similar thing, same frequencies.
So entirely targeted. So it doesn't have any effect whatsoever on the tissues surrounding the problem area.
No.
Just works on resetting the frequency. Is that a reasonable language?
That is, something that's quite clear. And of course, because it doesn't harm anything else around it, there are no side effects.
Oh, that's just wonderful, isn't it? Unlike all the things you were doing before, which were absolutely loaded with side effects, unknown interactions, damage to other stuff potentially as well. Who knows?
And I think that was one of the other things. I'd been taking antidepressants for so long, and yet if you open a packet of it, it tells you the side effects, as it does for most drugs. And on some of them, it says, may make you feel depressed. Or, even worse on some, may make you feel suicidal. And you think, hang on, what's this about?
You've had a diagnosis of depression and the drugs might make you depressed or suicidal. That doesn't seem like a treatment.
It's certainly something that didn't work for me, put it that way.
For sure. Okay.
You know, it might work for some people in some instances. But I think the main thing is to get the message out that there are other ways
I totally
to
agree.
do it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I have had some experiences which were even more severe than those of antidepressants.
Okay.
At one point in life, things got a bit difficult. I'd lost everything 3 times, through divorce, through tax, and then through recession generally, which everybody suffered from.
Yeah.
And I ended up with absolutely nothing, again, apart from a pile of bills, disconnection notices, repossession notices, and it was Christmas Eve.
Oh, no.
And the person with whom I'd been in a relationship for 6 years also decided, I didn't sign up for this, I'm leaving.
That's tough, to say the least.
Now, at that time, I didn't have any money left.
Mm-hmm.
There's no food in the fridge. It's Christmas Eve, so you can imagine there's lots of jollity going on around. I could hear the neighbours having a party, hear Slade's Merry Christmas playing through the wall.
Goodness.
And that was the last thing that I felt was merry.
Yeah, for sure.
What I did have, though, was a pile of antidepressants.
Oh, no.
And a few cheap bottles of wine left. And I took the lot.
Oh. Thank God you're still here. Thank God you were unsuccessful. So what on earth happened?
Well, I was in such a depressed state at that point, and I could not see any way out. And because this had happened for the 3rd time now, I thought I'm about to be made homeless again. And I thought, that's it. I'm checking out. I can't see any other way. So I took everything that I had. And to this day, I'm not sure how it happened, how I got there, but I woke up in a locked ward in a mental hospital.
Oh, goodness gracious me. That's a real, not the best wake up, but absolutely the best wake up all at the same time, isn't it?
Totally. I woke up there with no clothes. I mean, you'll recognise this with your profession. I had just a hospital smock on, leaving my back exposed.
Yes, I've seen 1 or 2 of those in my time.
And that was it. No phone, no money, no nothing. And not knowing how I got there and where my clothes were. I'd also preface that by saying when I took all the drugs and the drink, I sat in a bath.
Oh my goodness gracious
with
me.
the idea that this was going to be a belt and braces job. If the drugs and the drink didn't do it, then I would sink underwater. And then that would definitely be an end to it. So I didn't have any clothes.
Yeah.
Hence, I must have got taken out of there with no clothes, naked as the day I was born, and
you've no
to
idea
hospital.
who found you, got you to the hospital.
I don't know if it was neighbours. I don't know if that ex came back, found me, and then made a call and left again. I've no idea to this day what happened.
Wow. Thank goodness whoever it was did. That's all I can say to that. So you were being treated. How long were you in the hospital for?
Some weeks. When I got there, I didn't know, obviously, what had gone on. And I was given loads more powerful drugs.
Great.
And after a while, they said, your depression is so intransigent that, we're going to have to try something else. And so I was given 17 courses of electroconvulsive therapy.
Oh, wow. Okay, very dramatic. Wow. So what then? Do you think that made any difference? I suppose that you weren't really in a place to judge at that time point.
Well, as I say to everybody, it clearly didn't work because I'm still mad as a box of frogs.
Bless you. Yes, you are. I have to agree with that. So you eventually got out, though.
I did, but for those who are not aware of what the procedure is, when you have that, you have an electrodes attached to either side of your head. You're strapped down to a bed, arms and legs. There is a device put around your tongue so you don't swallow it, and then a shock is sent through the body. A lot of powerful volts going through your body with the intention that this will shock your brain out of depression. It didn't do that for me, but what it did do was cut out my short-term memory from around that time. So with regard to my time in hospital, I've got big gaps.
Okay.
Because that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's not quite such a bad thing.
Yeah.
That you don't have clear recall of that. And so that was another part of the lead up then to the whole bioresonance story, where that came from. And I guess you would have been on the pills for quite a while after you left the hospital still, until that time point where you met this physiotherapist and the bioresonance guy, and it's just fabulous. So now then, let's bring you right much more up to date the last couple of years. So I visited your clinic. I know what's there, but all these wonderful people watching and listening don't have a clue. So would you like to tell them what else you have?
Sure. One thing that we have is hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Mm-hmm. Now, some of you may have heard of this. A lot of sports people use it. Ronaldo has one in his home to keep him at the top of his game. The Kardashians have it to keep them looking, well, however they look. And some people use it for their general health and well-being.
Okay.
Now, what it also does specifically is target inflammation in the body.
Right.
And inflammation, as you know, is the cause of so many chronic illnesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you've got that as a modality alongside the bioresonance. I'll get my words out. And another piece of kit that I enjoyed, I have to say.
Which is red light therapy. Now, if you haven't come across one of these, if you can imagine a sunbed, which some of you might be familiar with, it looks similar to that, but you won't get a suntan.
Damn shame. No, it's not really. It's a fabulous thing, isn't it? And so what does that do then?
Well, you lie in it, and it's a bit like a human toaster. It's got within it 28,000 little lamps, and they'll deliver red, infrared, and blue waves. Sorry, red, infrared, and blue waves to the body.
Okay.
And what this will do is a number of things. The blue waves will deal with any surface issues. So if you have skin issues, psoriasis, acne, things like that, it will help clear that up.
Cool.
If you've got backache, muscle issues, joint issues, the red and infrared waves will go through to your joints and help alleviate the pain in those areas as well. And you lie in it and you pull the top down, and there are lights underneath you and lights above you, and so you get toasted from both angles.
Beautiful.
A further advantage of this is that it replicates the impact of the sun.
Ah.
So if you think how the sun, a sunny day, lifts your mood up, this does something similar to that. And so if you have what's called seasonal affective disorder, SAD, then this will also help with that too. So
altogether with these 3 machines, and I know there's a bit more, which I'm sure we'll touch on later, you offer a really comprehensive service, really, that can tackle a lot of issues that commonly most people come across at some point in their lives.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that people often present with at the moment is stress, not surprisingly. Stress, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, things that are really wearing people down.
Yeah.
And they particularly affect a certain demographic, which is usually women between about 40 and 50. This is because they're often dealing with kids or teenagers, trying to sort them out, trying to get them through exams, get them into universities and whatever, whilst they're also trying to cope with elderly parents at the same time, and juggle a career at the same time, and relationship if they have that at the same time. And it leaves them very little time to do what they want to do or work out what they want to do. That creates stress.
And you can help with that?
Well, what they get given straight away usually is antidepressants. And again, whilst that might mask the problem, it doesn't deal with the root cause.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people just need someone to listen, just sit and listen.
Yeah. Because often we just don't have time for that, do we? And certainly traditional medicine has very limited time for that.
I feel very sorry for GPs who want to do a good job, but they have 10 minutes, Oh, so how are you feeling? Okay, next, here's a script, next.
Yeah.
And, they can't often do what they went into the profession to do. And I think it's so unfortunate because some of the really good ones now are leaving the NHS.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
As you may well know.
I do indeed know. Yes. And we will come to that one at another time point. But yeah, so you've got this service in Wimbledon, which I guess people can travel to, but it's quite focused primarily for the people in and around that area and who can easily travel to it.
It is, although we have had people from quite a long way come to visit as well.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, because it's about, what I'm feeling from what you've said is it's as much about the rapport that you build with people and the time, the talk time, the listening time that you can provide on top of the therapies themselves, given the benefits that they give. So, and then came Elixir, which people are going to be hearing about on and off in this podcast. And we'll say a bit more about that in a moment. But basically, it's going to be a national holistic health company that Tony is very much involved in, offering his wonderful woo-woo and his knowledge and his experience in all of these services. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
Well, Elixir Health is going to be the new NHS, the Natural Health Service.
Oh, I like that. That's a fabulous tagline. Yeah, we'll keep that and write that down. Mark, can you write that one down, please? That one can't go unnoticed. That's fabulous. So we'll chat more about that in a bit.
We will, but we will be working with allopathic doctors, a wide range of natural healers, including iridologists, homeopaths, medical astrologists.
We have a wonderful array of people that I'm sure neither of us fully understand what all of them do, but that's the beauty of it. We don't have to. We just let their expertise shine. And that's what's going to happen. So thank you, Tony. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing your story. And let's chat again.
Thank you, Debs.